This is my Italian face, you know? Didn't you know I was part Italian? How much, you might ask? 2/15.
2/15, that fraction doesn't make any sense.
It's a complicated world. Green Book. Green Book. And in case you're wondering, yeah, I'm definitely going to do this entire review in an authentic New York accent. By authentic, I mean not at all. This is going to be bad. Some of the more Italian parts of my family are going to disagree with this, but you know, that's what bumper stickers are for. If you want the not so New Yorker version of this review, then smash the crap out of that like button and I'll think about it. Otherwise...
You don't like the way I talk, then go take a shit.
Okay, I mean, come on. I gotta somehow work in one of my favorite lines in the movie. It was an offer I couldn't refuse. I'm having fun with this. And if you're new to the channel, this is what we... I'm not doing the... Obviously, I'm not doing the accent, because I'm so good at it, right? If you're new to the channel, this is what we do. We have fun. Have fun now, have fun later. Hit the subscribe button wherever it is for more. Alright, back into character. So the movie is directed by the same guy who wrote Dumb and Dumber. Well, the more you learn, huh? And it's written by Nick Vallelonga, Brian Curry, and the guy who wrote Dumb and Dumber. Though I'm inclined to believe that most of the writing was done by Nick Vallelonga. Not just because great movies like these don't need three masters, but because this movie is based on his father, Tony Vallelonga. More on that later. It stars Viggo Mortensen, Mahershala Ali, and Linda Cardellini. And this movie was suggested by Audrey Rios and Rick Sakele. I ain't got a clue. How do you say that word? Rick Sakele or Sakele.
Nobody's perfect.
Which is why, if I ever miss your name, shoot me a message, you know? I'm trying my best here. So Green Book came out in 2018 and was a real heavy hitter. But with its inspirational messages partnered with glorious writing, directing, and cinematography. It won Best Picture, and once again, Viggo Mortensen stole our hearts. And all the Lambus were too, because his gut is like, there's just more to love now, and I'll tell you. Characters. So you got Tony Vallelonga. Tony the Lip for short.
It's not Tony the Lip. It's Tony Lip.
Ah, whatever, Viggo. I suppose you pronounce it Leviosa too, huh?
You don't like the way I talk, then go take a shit.
Alright. So Tony Lip is a middle-class citizen, working odd jobs to feed his family. Mostly bouncing, food contests, card games. Sounds like a workaholic if you ask me. But what separates him from the other morons that play that game is luck. On top of good luck, he's got charm. On top of that charm, he's got kind loyalty. And on top of that luck, charm, and kind loyalty, he looks like Aragorn from the neck up. Hits like Aragorn too, jeesh. Yeah, it's kind of amazing what this guy can pull off looking like a leftover TV dinner, while still kicking just as much tail. But enough with the details. Tony is one of my absolute favorite characters in anything ever. And with how distinguished and likable his personality is, you need the perfect polar opposite that is just as likable. Dr. Shirley. Yeah, I mean, at first, you might think that he's just an uptight rich loner. But you see, here's the complicated and script-wise genius thing with Dr. Shirley. You've got a black man in the 1960s who's also rich. Okay, let's level with each other. Which race in America was primarily rich back then? White people. And which race was generally impoverished? Everybody else. Now take Dr. Shirley. He's a famous musician who's paid by rich white people to perform. Then the moment he walks off the stage, he's persecuted like any other black man. He's rich, he's famous, he's educated. These are luxuries that most black people couldn't enjoy. So he's rejected by black people too, making him a marginalized minority. So this guy isn't lonely just because he's uptight and doesn't want to talk to people. He's lonely because he's lonely. He's actually a fantastic man who's educated, cultured, and intuitive. So when he actually finds someone who is willing to listen and befriend him regardless of his statuses, we get to see what a kind man he is. Everything from his smile, to his courage, to his zealous tenaciousness, to press forward, makes him one of the most respectable characters I've ever seen in film. So take two wonderful people provided with a selfless bond, and you get, well, the best relationship I've ever seen on the picture screen. Now you thought we was done there, huh? No. So you got the best relationship you've ever seen blossoming. To what end, though? Enter Dolores Vallelonga. Tony's wife is kind, patient, supportive of her family, and boy does it show. I mean, for one thing, she's entirely supportive of her husband driving through the deep south protecting a rich black man. She's the best, and Tony knows it. And here's the fantastic thing about this whole picture. Tony loves his wife to bits, but he doesn't have the words to communicate it. Enter Dr. Shirley, who teaches Tony how to write these beautiful letters to his wife that convey emotion that is to the proper level of appreciation. If I say any more, I'm gonna give something away. Just go watch the movie. It's the character piece of character pieces. See, that's the genius of this movie. You want a lesson on good character writing? Give us characters that we can like from the start, that are adaptable and flexible enough that we can make them better. This movie starts on the high ground and does not let up. We get to see Tony, Dr. Shirley, and Dolores, who we already love, become happier people right before our eyes. Acting. You know when you got that guy that's been in that movie and they can only ever be remembered for that role? Yeah, that's Vigo. Except he's now remembered for 2 roles. That's impressive when an old character, completely disappears into a new role. And you forget who's playing the role because he's no longer that actor that played that one role. He is an incredibly well-realized character, and that's entirely thanks to Vigo. The guy's a powerhouse in this movie, and it's done entirely without having to shed a tear. And it's that Hobbit intensity while still being able to convey emotion that's so impressive. And it's no coincidence that Mahershala Ali is also able to give us one of the best performances with that same Hobbit intensity. Even more. And it's all thanks to his subtleties. Those subtleties are what make his character complexities work. You got all this hurt and scars underneath, and Mahershala has to convey this without giving away too much. It's what gives his character spontaneity and mystery while still maintaining likability and sophistication. Genius. Loved Mahershala. And Linda was just so good too. What a pioneer and symbol of motherly love and moral power. All these actors complement each other. Inseparability, I think, is the word I'm looking for. And you could tell that the chemistry on camera was just as powerful off camera. Dialogue. There are so many memorable lines here. I mean, it's inescapable. You're gonna walk out with some new ones up your sleeve. Anyway, that's good stuff right there. Salty.
Salty.
I know, right? Jeez, whoever thought salty would turn into a relevant term? And a coworker of mine, he pointed out a pretty good Dr. Shirley line.
Grab some cards. I don't lose, Doc. I don't lose.
So stooping down in the gravel, pitching dice for pocket change makes you a winner.
What are you giving me shit for? Everybody was doing it.
They didn't have a choice whether to be inside or out. You did.
It just goes to show that good luck isn't an omen until, it runs out and becomes an omen. Just don't rely on it too much. If you got it, put it in the fridge for later. But white privilege allowed for the reliance on good luck, a concept that black people couldn't rely on. So even though Tony thinks he's just having fun with folks with the same skin color as his boss, Dr. Shirley, black people didn't have the same rights as him. Otherwise, they wouldn't be outside in the gravel pitching dice for pocket change. They would have real jobs and be running less of a risk of losing everything. Tony was taking advantage of a situation without fully realizing it. Good for Dr. Shirley for saying something. All right. Look, this is a kid-friendly channel, for the most part. So I'm going to warn you that this next line is fantastic. Emphasis on the F in that word, and in this scene, because it's in there. So on their little road trip, Tony's writing these letters to his wife, and it's freaking adorable how terrible these things sound. But Dr. Shirley, he's eloquent, educated. Tony's not. So Dr. Shirley decides to give him some tips.
Falling in love with you was the easiest thing I've ever done.
Falling in love with you is very fucking romantic. Was the easiest thing I have ever done.
Okay, look. We all got our cultures. You just gotta remember that literarily, the F word's got its place in some of them. And it's only once in the movie, where in Goodfellas it's 300 times. And those are real statistics, by the way. Read a book. And there's one more line that is easily the best in the movie. And I'm gonna save it for the last of lasts. Because it had an impact if it's going in the moral section. Story. Okay, how many road trip movies have we gotten? Too many. And does this subgenre need a refresher? You betcha. But how do you revitalize something that's so rudimentary, familiar, exhausted? You make Green Book. Yeah, this ain't no road trip movie. But it is. But it isn't. You see, unlike in other road trip movies, this movie, it's less about the road trip and it's more about the bond between these two wonderful people. Overcoming the obstacles of history, racism, and the toxic temptation to go about life alone. We can touch on this more in the moral section, but there are only a select few movies out there that understand hope and humanity well enough to communicate it properly. This movie might be the prime example. On top of all that, they're driving through the Deep South in the 1960s. Not only adding tension, but also enhancing the message on racism. The stage is so well set here for a message on that, as well as for a compelling story. A story, by the way, that's real. It happened. It's true. And you know, there isn't any other way to put it. It's perfect. Let me tell you why.
Predictability.
This is the reason why I keep this section in the reviews. Because if you can give us a road trip movie that works in some twists that aren't shoehorned and can only enhance the powerful messages the movie is teaching, well then home frickin' run. This movie not only has important messages, but also has a unique and surprising way to drive them home. Pun intended. I'm not going to spoil these unexpected moments, but I will say that those unexpected moments are more than just an accomplishment. They're a gift both to film as an art form and humanity. How can this movie get any better? Well, let me tell you.
Moral.
Here it is. So, every once in a while, a movie comes along that impacts you in a way that no other movie does. I've already talked about the social power of this film, and I think the power behind this can be attributed to and enhanced by one looming factor. This movie takes place during Christmas time. Here's the secret ingredient. The entire Christmas factor of the movie is focused on family and community. Healthy, kind, and selfless interactions with fellow women and men. Now, I hate to submit this movie or limit it to the confines of just being another Christmas movie. To put it simply, it isn't. You see, all the persecutions that happen to our friends here, particularly to Dr. Shirley, happen regardless of the season because the season is non-discriminate. Christmas magnifies an already prominent issue by showing very real struggle amidst a very fantastical time of year. Showing that racism was, and in some ways still is, no more an exception in December as it is in July. If I may break out of character, just for a moment. This movie enlightened me. It reminded me of the importance of non-discriminate companionship and the joy that can be found in those friendships. I know this all sounds kind of cliche and surface level, but that's just because most other movies that try to communicate this are very cliche and surface level. I've got a spoiler coming up, and it's my favorite line in the movie, and it's important. So if you haven't seen the movie, skip to that time in the video. Though I would much rather and highly recommend that if you haven't seen the movie, then stop this, go watch the movie, and come back so we can gush together about how great this scene is. To put it into context, Dr. Shirley is gay, and Tony finds out in a way that's embarrassing. Long story short, cops are called, and Tony defends Dr. Shirley in keeping his secret. This is a good place to start the scene.
Tony. I'm sorry about last night.
Don't worry about it. I've been working nightclubs in New York City my whole life. I know it's a complicated world.
People, listen to what this movie's saying. It is the elite epitome of wisdom in regards to accepting others who are either living a lifestyle that is different from your own, or in regards to accepting people that just simply have struggles that you haven't and probably never will deal with. Tony isn't gay, and he isn't black, so he doesn't try to empathize because he can't. However, he understands that everyone has their own struggles, their own secrets, and their own haters. And judging by the rest of the movie, his attitude is, if someone is a good human being, he will be a loyal friend to them. And say if someone imposes struggles and secrecy and hate,
Then go take a shit.
everything in this movie is intentional, from the period piecing to the road trip template to the people they put in the car. That complicated world that Tony recognizes is only the first step to his role reversal. And Dr. Shirley became the last push when they celebrate pure indiscriminate mutualism. You want to learn how to be more open-minded and open-armed? Watch this movie. It's the full package. It will positively enlighten you in regards to racism, homosexuality, economic discrimination, cultural integration, white privilege, family, and the need for community and mutual respect. I wanted to communicate this with sincerity and out of character. That's not to say that the rest of the review is a joke. There just isn't a fun way to talk about racism and segregation in general without coming off as disrespectful. All that truthfully said, let's remain sincere and get back into character. Fellas, this is one of those movies. One of those movies that challenges you to think and to feel at the same time. One of those movies that you have to walk away a better person. One of those movies that are in your top 10. I'm putting Green Book at number 5. Geez, you know, you want to know the definition of whiplash? Watch The Amazing Bulk. And then this. So that's Green Book, and I would highly recommend this movie really to anybody. I mean, yeah, it's got a couple of foul words in there, but hey, there's worse ways for the kid to find out about those. Regardless, if you've got questions about the movie before going to watch it, please comment below. I'd be happy to be your guru. Coming up next is an indie film from Anthony James, a director in the UK, who's just like me, trying to get his name out there. And in the UK, his movie is officially titled Ghost. Not that one. But in the United States, it's called Ex-Con Redemption. We're gonna stick with Ghost. Now you might be wondering, why review that? Well, it's simple. I want to support the indie community. I believe that the future of filmmaking is there as we start to see more and more wide-release art house films, which, by the way, I'm a fan of. Ghost will be a great opportunity for me to explain why. After Ghost, I've got a little surprise for you guys. Something I've been wanting to do for such a long time, and that is review a movie series. I was trying to figure out how I should go about it, or what I should review, and I think I got it. But funny enough, it wasn't really a choice. It's almost like the movie chooses the critic, and it's not always clear why. Jeez, I forgot I gotta swing my axe at the camera. That would have worked out so perfect. I walk off and I should have just left it. Anyways, I'm reviewing all the Harry Potter movies. Duck. Boom, 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 boom.